This is Talk is Sheep, the official podcast of the Wild Sheep Society of BC, brought to you by Sitka Game. Come along as we bring conversations that matter to you into the high alpine.
So we have a very special group of participants tonight in our third episode of our sheep camp series. This is something that we're doing at Spike Camp, and one of our missions is to, well, our primary mission, first and foremost, is to support and promote our conservation group partners. And the Wild Sheep Society of BC is certainly one of the most important groups that we have, and it was the first one that we reached out to when we decided to try and launch this little project that we call Spike Camp. So I spoke with Kyle a few weeks ago, and I thought it would be a really cool idea to get Kyle and his crew of executive members on. Some of them, I think we have most of them, right? We're missing one, maybe, I think. And just sort of get an update on projects and initiatives that are happening within the society. And then I guess more often than not, we don't get to see you guys or hear from you very much publicly. We see a lot of obviously the hard work and heavy lifting that you do behind the scenes. When we go to the show in Kamloops, we just see you guys running around like a bunch of chickens with your heads cut off, working your asses off, trying to get all the stuff done. Certainly appreciate that, but we thought it'd be awful fun to get you guys on here and talk a little business and then maybe talk some hunting. So I'm going to toss the mic over to Kyle, and you guys have the keys to Spike Camp. So lock it up when you're done.
Awesome, Chuck. Great to be here, first of all, and just thank you for all you do as a member, Monarch member of the society, Blake a member as well, and everything that you guys do. And then Spike Camp's really cool. You know, one of the things that as a conservation organization, outreach is so important to us, right? And, you know, trying to share our message and what we're doing. And a lot goes in behind the scenes that, you know, people don't really get an opportunity to see. And anything that we can do to share more of what we're doing and, you know, get more engagement with our members is fantastic. So I looked at the list here tonight. We got a pretty distinguished list. We got a number of our own members on here. It's really cool to see. I see Chair Landris, the chair of the Wild Sheep Foundation Board of Directors. So Chuck, if you want to do a pitch to get Wild Sheep Foundation more engaged with Spike Camp and Sheep Camp, this is your chance. So Glenn's on tonight, but I see Bill, who was on 2 nights ago, and a bunch of other members. And it's great to see, and it's really exciting. We did share this with our membership. From an introductory perspective, I'm Kyle, as Chuck mentioned, CEO of the society. I'm kind of the paid guy that's doing what these guys are telling me to do in terms of driving the ship and where they want to take it. The board of directors are the decision makers, and me and my team, we try and execute on the things that are important to the board of directors, and they take their direction from the membership. So with that, I'll just do a really quick round of introductions here, and then we'll kick right into things for those that aren't sort of more familiar. Our president's Corey Green, and Corey sent his regards. He was going to try and make it tonight. He had an emergency trip to out to Alberta for some business that he had to take care of, and he can't be on tonight. And which is disappointing because Corey is in the north, and unfortunately now we don't have any representation from the north tonight, and we didn't get a chance to get some of our other directors from up north as well. So anyway, unfortunately Corey's not on tonight. We've got Mike Southern and Chris, if you guys want to give us a wave. And you guys are going to do lots of talking here shortly once I get through the intros. As far as the rest of the executive, our secretary is Greg Rensmag, the guy with the fancy hat. He's my co-host on Talk is Sheep. And Joe's styling with the haircut tonight. So Joe Humphreys, our treasurer. And so that's the entire executive team. And we've invited Peter on. He's obviously a big part of our board of directors, very involved, and he leads the membership component of the society and does a ton of other stuff too. But membership's so important to us, and anytime Pete can engage, he's very active in the membership realm of things. So it was really important to have Pete on tonight. We'd love to have the entire board on. There's 14 directors, but unfortunately we have a limit of 9. So we're at that limit now. So that's kind of the reason that we've kept it at this. So I guess with that, for our guests that are on tonight, you know, this is interactive. I was on one the other night with Bill, and you guys did a fantastic job of hosting, Chuck and Blake. So any questions that you have along the way, just blurt them out. Chuck will maybe help us out. I'll keep an eye on the chat too. But really, this is going to be driven by you guys on the direction we wanted to go. We do have some talking points that we want to hit on, but that's kind of where we're starting out. So I think to start off with, there's two guys that have been doing this for decades and two guys that I really, really respect. And there's other people too, but Chris and Mike have been driving the ship for the society for decades. And, we really rely heavily on their leadership and direction. And there's a lot of new blood and a lot of enthusiasm. We make some mistakes sometimes. There's things that we do that Chris and Mike have seen before that didn't work. And so they've done a really good job of stewarding the society and sort of keeping us on a really solid path. So maybe Chris and Mike, I'm just curious, actually, I was thinking about this earlier tonight. Which one of you was involved with the society first? Was it Mike or Chris? Because
I was, yeah.
You were, okay.
Chris was an elk guy, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, old loser. Oh, sorry, I shouldn't say it online like this.
And just for the record, please don't let any of Mike's comments be held against this, because some of them might not be. Yeah. Anyway, but let's start with you, Mike. So you've been around for when did you get involved in sort of what did the society look? Because we go now, right? There's 500, 600, 700 people. We're hoping to have 750 this year. I don't think it was like that in the early days. So let's talk about those early days and what it looked like when you got involved, Mike.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty grassroots, and I mean, it still is to a certain degree. And we're talking 20, it is decades. I didn't have gray hair. I was much better looking, a whole lot younger. But yeah, it's decades. It's 25 or 26 years since we've been involved with the society, actually. Well, yeah, as soon as I met Chris, actually. So my history, Chris and I's history, we went sheep hunting together, didn't know each other, blasting up the river up north with Guy Scott, the guy who owned Kevin Willis' business prior to Kevin buying it. Hadn't met him in my life. Ended up being best buddies, and to this day, right? So, literally to the point where we came back from that. We all went hunting, came back that September, and Chris's wife Lori got pregnant by Chris. My wife got pregnant, by me, and yeah, had kids almost at the same freaking time. It's just fucking weird, right? Holiday together, all that kind of good stuff. But yeah, Joe's chuckling himself in the garage. But I got to ask Joe, why are you in the garage right now? Anyways,
it's the respect of our viewers.
Fair enough. So it's been a long time, and at the end of the day, I started my sheep hunting career, if you want to call it a career. It's not really; it's a passion. It's kind of in my blood. About 3-4 years prior to that, with guiding up in the Yukon for Rod Hardy, the guy who owned Tim Mervin's area before he sold it. And from there, I hadn't shot a sheep in BC, so I started looking around, started to do my research, and lots of that, of course, and figured, hey, let's just call Guy Scott, man. This guy knows some sheep. He sees some spots. I see rams on the wall. I see Chuck Jim Shockey, yada, yada, yada. So, again, that's how we all started off. And this transitioned into, hey, what do we do to make more sheep? How do we give back? I mean, I want to make sure this is here for my kids and for my grandkids, and I want to be able to do this until I can't hike up that mountain anymore. And that's really my root reason for being here. And it's probably, other than the fact there's the odd person that doesn't want to see me go, I wouldn't even be here to this day, really, if it wasn't for the support that the executive has for my back in a lot of cases, and the passion that we all share. I think we all have that passion, that desire. But going back to that first fundraiser, for me, and I can't remember which one it was, I believe it was the one we did in Cranbrook, BC. So it's a long, long time ago. In the fundraiser, it was a small venue, a real intimate little deal where we had long tables that ran like two rows of tables down this building, as I recall. You walk in the center of this, I don't even know what kind of building it was. I don't recall now, clubhouse of some sort. And then we had people serving us at the table, and it was a communal type deal. So anything that was on that table was what you guys shared at that table. And there was a dozen plus people at that table. We started going through it and doing our fundraiser. And it's funny, Dave Heitzman, one of our past presidents now, reminded me the other day, and I hadn't met Dave at the time. But that first trip there, I won something, which is so unusual for me because I'm terrible. I don't win anything typically. As you know, nobody's seen my hurrah on Hunt BC about winning a freaking LDH draw, because I didn't. But anyways, I won a rifle that trip, or that event, donated it back, and then the following year we were down in Kelowna. I believe it was our first trip to Kelowna. And the guys, Bill Pastoric, who was the president at the time, and Dave wanted me to run as the director. I showed up late, didn't get there for the election. So long and short, another fellow got elected. That particular gentleman had some issues that we found out after the fact. So as a runner-up, I became a director, believe it or not. That's how it all started. So that's kind of my thing. And now it's really just, I just can't get enough sheep. I can't get enough hunting. I'm addicted. My lifestyle allows me now to do a lot of freedom. So I get to do a lot more playing than I used to even, which is pretty good because I've always spent 6 to 8 weeks in the bush hunting. So yeah, I look forward to doing this until we can't, basically. So that's what I got to say. I don't know if I answered your question, Kyle, but it rambled on anyway.
So we look back those early days for you, Chris. Same experience, and sort of how did you get involved? And I've heard some of your sheep hunting stories, so I'm not even going to go there. But just tell us a little bit about your involvement and how you got hooked into what do you always say? It's like the Hotel California, you can check in, but you can't check out, or the mob or something. What's your saying there?
My saying is once you're in, you're never getting out. It's like the mob. And that's it. And that's true. Like me and Mike, like I said, our kids, I think, are 27. And I think that's when I joined the board. So something like that. You guys will get a chuckle out of this one. I was doing the Elk Foundation, like Mike mentioned, and when the Elk Foundation pulled out of Canada, really needed somebody to fill that conservation void, empty space. So I was talking to Mike and went to, I don't even know where it was, Mike, where I joined the board, but they were looking for a treasurer. So you guys can laugh about that one.
Yeah, sorry, Chris.
So that's how I got on the board. I started off as a treasurer for the society way back when, and like Mike progressed through things. Was president for I think 6 or 7 years. Glenn Kunzel was our president at the time when I was the VP, and Glenn's probably a mentor to Mike, myself, Dave. I think Bill was pre-Glenn, but Glenn Kunzel lived in Williams Lake, and Glenn was really respected Glenn, and I still carry some of his mantras to the day, especially around projects and spending money. And as much as we're kind of stuck in some study stuff right now, Glenn said we need to do stuff on the landscape for the sheep and quit studying these damn things. And I still kind of take that with every project that we fund. The project committee looks at and reviews, what's our return on investment? What's it going to do for wild sheep on the landscape? And that's kind of keeps me driving, but same as Mike's passion. Like I said, we met on that first sheep hunt, and I think we did 2 or 3 consecutively, and we were pretty fortunate to harvest some sheep, but that relationship's lasted way longer than we probably both expected at the time. But we still hunt together to this day, and he still abuses the shit out of me. He's a good cook too. Don't let him fool you.
Right on. So I'm not sure if it's Greg or Pete that's newest to the board. I think it might be Greg. He's kind of the shortest serving member. And I know, Greg, when you came up to our show and you kind of got hooked in right away. You're like, holy crap. And I know you've also done some volunteer work for other organizations. You reached out to SCI and I think the West Coast guys were talking to them a little bit, and then you kind of landed here with us. So, what brought you to the fold, and kind of what was the hook for you to get involved with what we're doing here?
Well, I joined the Mafia, so no. It was Kamloops, the show. Just headed up to Kamloops, went to the Salute Conservation a few years back, and started meeting everybody, sitting in on the seminars, and really just learning about sheep and seeing what the problems were and the issues they're facing, and realized, well, I can dedicate some time to this. And I walked away from that show knowing where I wanted to be, basically. Within a couple of weeks of leaving the show, I became a life member. Later on that year, I was a monarch. And then the year after that, I threw my name in the hat for the board. And here I am, sucked in and apparently going nowhere. So Chris locked me in. He made me join the Mafia. We're blood brothers now. So here we are.
Very cool. Pete, let's talk a little bit about membership. So, I look at the list here tonight and the participants, and a lot of really familiar names, a lot of individuals that are members of the society, and they truly are the lifeblood of what we do. And I know as membership chair, you're really passionate about membership engagement. So let's just touch a little bit on membership, what it means to you, and sort of, maybe some of the opportunities that we'll be offering our members. We've had a couple of rough years with COVID and, not a lot of opportunity to get together. And I know that's front of mind for you, is really trying to engage members and get them more involved. So let's touch on that a bit.
Yeah, you betcha, Kyle. I got onto the board a couple of years before Greg, I think, and it was because of a local project we had here in Penticton where I live, and it was a project where we needed volunteers to get out and help with it. It was basically, I was going out there feeding sheep at night with a bale of hay and some grain and feeding them some water and stuff. So that's my entry into the organization, and that's what got me really certainly onto the board, and kind of got me on the deep dive into things. And so always just kind of kept that with me, and felt that it's important that we're getting people out there, that we're getting just general education about sheep out there, and that we're spreading awareness about them. Obviously there's so many issues in the province when it comes to wildlife and wild sheep. And for me, I think it's important that as many people can be involved as possible. And so on that front, we did some stuff along the South Thompson this year for some sheep monitoring stuff, and had varying success there in different times of year, and with different things there, and learned a bunch. And I think we've got some more potential projects up our sleeve here in different spots within the province. And we'd really like to just get more engagement, get more people out there doing more things. And there's going to be, with all the disease issues that we do have, certainly with the bighorns down south, there's potential to actually get your hands on some sheep, which that doesn't happen very often. So I think it's an exciting opportunity for our members to potentially get involved in something like that.
Right on, Pete. So, that's one of the things I've seen in other jurisdictions. Idaho Wild Sheep Foundation is a fantastic example. Tons of volunteer opportunity. They're going out capturing sheep. They do their test and remove, I think, a little bit differently than we do here in BC. But a number of great volunteer opportunities for people to get out on the landscape and handle sheep. And that's one of the things that I've been involved with the society now. I've been a member for 15 years or whatever, and on the board for 7, and I've never touched a wild sheep other than when I harvested one. So I feel like I got a bit of an itch to scratch there. So one of the projects that we had this past winter was a drop net capture with the pavilion herd, and we were going to do a wholesale call out for members to be involved. And unfortunately, that fell through. It was a bit of a weird winter weather-wise. But Chris, maybe you want to talk a little bit about that capture process that's going to go on, and we're slating it for this winter, and what's involved with that.
Yeah, no. So it's going to be on the Fraser River down around Pavilion. It's on First Nations land. So we've had to get their permission, their buy-in, and I think they're on board. Chris Proctor's worked really hard on putting that together. So we're going to try and drop net capture. The society, with our membership funds, our member money, purchased a drop net for this project. And we're going to be able to use it on the Fraser maybe once or twice, but also in the Kamloops area, and maybe in the Okanagan. So we're going to get some use out of a drop net. So there's going to be potential for members to actually, get their hands on sheep. But the first one will be around Pavilion on this Fraser. And hopefully, if the sheep band up like they're supposed to, there'll be 30, 40 sheep under that drop net that we can get our hands on and sample and test and just see what the prevalence of Movie is. And we've done it in the past. I've been fortunate enough to participate in 3 or 4 drop nets over the years, so I won't dive into that, depending on where you guys want to go. But really excited about the opportunities and people to sign up, and managing how many volunteers we need to get into that project. So really excited about it, and really excited for our members to be able to participate in it.
Cool, Chris. Now, I look at the list here, and again, there's a number of members and individuals that have been involved with the Wild Sheep fraternity for years. I think many of them have probably seen the film Transmission. If you haven't seen it, check out moviefree.org, and that'd be a great resource for you to check out for what we're doing on the Fraser River. But part of that process it's called test remove. It's a strategy that we're trying to contain Movi. So Chris, with that drop net, will they be dispatching sheep? Will they test them? And if they test positive, will they remove them right then and there with the capture?
That's the piece I'm not 100% how Chris wants to structure that, but there's the potential. They've got to run that sample through a biomean. So my gut feeling is what they'll do is they'll hobble blindfold every sheep there. People will be holding their heads up. They won't be tranquilized. They'll take their full gamut of blood, fecal, and nasal swab. Those nasal swabs then have to go to that biomean unit, which tells you whether they're PCR positive or negative. And at that point, so it takes about 45 minutes. So what we've been doing in the past is with the helicopter captures is taking those samples, going back, sampling them at night. And before we release the sheep, we put a VHF collar on them. So if the next day, if there's a positive animal, or the following day, they can track that signal via VHF and then go euthanize that animal if it's a positive animal. So that's how we're doing it. It's shortened up the time we handle the sheep. It's less stress on the sheep. So my gut feeling is what Chris will do is they'll sample, test at night, VHF collar them, go out the next day or 2 days later, and then dispatch any positive sheep. Is kind of the way that it's been working. So I'm going to assume they're going to follow the same protocols as what we've done in Pascal.
Okay, cool. All right, let's switch gears a little bit here. And last guy we haven't really heard from is our treasurer out of the Yukon, Joe Humphreys. Joe is, we went with the new joiners, we went with the old boys, and now we're going with the medium guys. And that said, Joe, you've been around for a bloody long time. And you're wearing a lot of hats. You wear treasure hat for us. You do all the raffle stuff, but now you're also a big part of the Yukon Wild Sheep Foundation family and secretary treasurer, I believe, there and on the executive, and really involved on that. Maybe just talk a little bit about your involvement with the board and some of the synergies that we're seeing and the benefits that we're seeing now with this Yukon BC Doll Sheep project that we're working on. So over to you, sir.
You're going to have to keep me on track. That being said, you guys hadn't heard from me yet. That was probably to everyone's liking till now. Yeah, I've been around since 2012 was my first show. The first year it was in Kelowna. Got elected to the board in 2016, 2017. I don't know if it's an upgrade or a downgrade, but I got elected as treasurer, and no one wants to put up a fight against me since. I welcome any challengers. But yeah, so I'm in my 7th year as treasurer now. There's been a lot of growth. I mean, my first couple of years, Mike Schroeder, former VP and board member, got me involved with raffles. I came to a few shows, and like Ray Thornton says, come for the party, stay for the sheep. That's kind of how it started. Hey, it's a good time, good weekend by friends and former board members. And that's really kind of how I got immersed in sheep hunting and the conservation world. Not to say I wasn't a conservationist prior to, but definitely my understanding and my dedication has evolved over the last 15 years or so. So my first couple of years, 70 to 80,000, maybe 100,000 in a year of raffles, and now we're and all of that would be shows, maybe 1 or 2 pub nights. Now you and I are getting together and texting weekly, sometimes daily, and we've got our raffle plan, which is a huge percentage of our fundraising. We're already looking into halfway into 2024. What are we going to be doing for our next spring and summer raffles? We're already having those conversations, so that's great with that bread and butter. And that's we're on track, and I don't want to give an exact number, but anywhere from 600,000 to 900,000 a year now in raffle. That's gross generation, but we have phenomenal donors who support and see our site for Wild Sheep Society BC, and we get a great deal of things, either at a great discount or God bless full-on donations, and we get some spectacular donations. Our 6-gun rifle raffle that we got going on right now, for anyone wondering where that money's going, all 6 of those raffles. That's $54,000, I believe, roughly. That's 100% donation to our society. So that's now, you can probably times that by 3. That 55,000 in donations, we're going to turn that into $150,000 minimum that we're going to put on the ground with people buying their raffle tickets, and still a chance to win a $16,000 rifle. Our early bird rifle, that was $6,400 rifle, I believe. So that's wonderful. I moved up to the Yukon about 5 years ago. Didn't take long. Former secretary, former board member, and vice president, so Rich Christensen, Helen Christensen, they had moved up here a couple years prior. I guess you could say I followed them. Didn't take long for them to immerse me in Yukon. We've had some struggles through COVID and just policy, volunteers, but we're righting the ship in a big hurry right now. We had our board meeting last night. There's great things to come. And that brings us to chapters and affiliates. 2 weeks ago, you guys raised, we've had it on social media, but 10 minutes, 274,000 US, which I think is somewhere around 322,000 Canadian. So for a project that we're predicting to be $275,000, that's what other chapters and affiliates in the South, US areas that don't even have sheep, they're putting big buckets of money into BC and into the Yukon because the sheep matter. They believe in conservation. People want to come up here, whether it be for sightseeing, whether it be, they want that chance to do that guided sheep hunt if they're non-resident. And it's also a great area where this project's going to take place because we're seeing some sheep struggles in some areas that were believed to be low pressure on hunting pressure. So it's going to be great to see what comes out of this project that's going to start winter of 2024. But I'll stop there and muzzle myself for now.
Yeah, awesome, Joe. Appreciate all that. And, I think that, this is kind of a good opportunity to talk about that Dull Sheep project in the Yukon/BC. And hats off to the Wild Sheep Foundation and Chairman Landers, Glenn, who's on the call tonight. Glenn spearheaded that effectively. The Yukon chapter is trying to get on their feet up north there. And we all know that our northern stone sheep and Dull sheep need a little bit of help. They've had some pretty rough winters up there. There's some events going on, some climate change stuff, and they need a little bit more support from us. And, Glenn had said when this came on the radar for chapter and affiliates that how many chapter and affiliates over the years have had Dull and stone sheep hunts auctioned or raffled off and made tons of money for conservation, and how much money have we put back there for the resource. And so Glenn thought this was a great opportunity to step up. And so all that money is going to funnel through the Wild Sheep Foundation. It will go to those projects. And Wild Sheep Foundation kicked it up. And again, from Glenn's leadership, with the $50,000 seed funding for that. They kicked off the ball to get things going. Chris, maybe you want to touch a little bit on the project end of things. What's this going to do for Dull sheep? I'm excited about it. We had Crystal Chris on the podcast last night, Talk is Sheep. Anyone that's interested, we just launched that this morning. And Crystal talks about the importance of that project. And there's not a lot of Dull sheep projects that happen in British Columbia. So I'm pretty excited about this one. Chris, if you want to touch on it for us, please.
Yeah, so this is actually the first Dull sheep project that Wild Sheep Society of BC has undertaken. So that was kind of a kickoff piece that we've never done anything for Dull sheep. We don't have any information, no baseline health assessments, any of that information. And so that was one of the main reasons. And then the second reason was, you kind of touched on it, to get people vested in what Yukon's trying to do with Dull sheep as well. So having this cross-border project kind of really invigorated that to jump off. So we're really excited. We're looking for, habitat information. How often are those sheep moving across the border? Are the BC sheep staying in BC? Are they crossing into Yukon? Are the Yukon sheep crossing into BC? What's lamb recruitment look like? We have no idea what lamb recruitment looks like. So, and again, we have no health samples on any of these sheep. So we're going to get our baseline of health, and then we're going to get this whole bunch of other data, and then we can start looking at whether, do we need to do habitat work? Is there a predation issue? Is it strictly weather? Like, it's going to give us this whole gamut. And the really cool part of it is, and it wasn't on our radar when we did start this project, but the Jade Boulder project, just north of Dease Lake, we'll be able to correlate this doll sheep information with the Jade Boulder information and start looking at saying, is lamb recruitment similar from these doll sheep to our stone sheep? And then can we correlate this data around? And then Helen's just working on, and I'm probably going to spill the cap, but we had a presentation at CNA's just about looking at genes and stress levels that they can pick up from the genes. And we'll be able to take that and look at that. And they're looking at it more from the Mobi side of things and the stress that Mobi puts on them, but we'll be able to look on it, is recreational activities putting stress on those sheep at certain times of the year? Is that affecting the stress level and putting an undue stress on these sheep? So there's all sorts of stuff that's going to come out from when we first started talking about the project to what we're going to end up with. So we're going to end up with a whole suite of other information that we've never had before. And like I said, we can start looking at lamb recruitment basically from the most western point where those doll sheep are, right to Jade Boulder and all the way to Atlin, because they've got collared sheep in Atlin as well. So basically those stone sheep herds just below the Yukon border, we'll be able to correlate all that information and just see what that looks like. And then we can start diving into what's, is it predation? Is it habitat? Is it recreation? What's maybe having an impact on these lamb recruitment or sheep populations? And are they moving into less desirable habitat for other reasons? So pretty cool what we're going to get out of it. It's going to really help the science piece. And then obviously the other key piece of this is we're tying it in with First Nations and traditional ecological knowledge that's going to bring some of that ancient history that we don't really have through Western science. So it's really important to kind of blend all of this together to see, where did we come from, where we're at, where are we going to be going. So really excited how it's going to come together.
Yeah, right on, Chris. And just talking to Crystal, she had mentioned that, some of the gaps in the science there, there's a lot of data that they don't have with this. And so I'm hopeful that from the study, the tag allotment in 628, 629 is based on the data that they have. And one of the things that Crystal had said was First Nations harvest was a bit of a gap there. So if we can see the inventory, there's an opportunity, maybe there's going to be more opportunity for tags in the future too. So, from an end user perspective, it's pretty exciting if we ended up creating some more opportunity for some extra tags in that region as well. I think that'd be pretty cool as an outcome there. So, from an evolutionary perspective with the society, Mike and Chris, you guys were there in the early days, like you said, I can't believe 25 years ago. That makes you really old, Mike. But with that, what kind of projects were you guys doing 25 years ago? And what did you have for cash to do the work that you're doing?
Did you want me to answer that, Kyle, or do you want Mike to kind of?
Yeah, either one of you guys. But I'm just curious what you guys did for projects on that.
Well, our revenue stream wasn't what it is today, that's for sure. We didn't do a heck of a lot, quite honestly. There was a number of them, but over the years. But Chris probably has a better dig on that than I do.
Yeah, Mike really did the fundraising piece, and that's how our banquets grew and kind of got the people coming in the projects. And kind of talked to Joe's board last night about this. I said, I can remember when we had $5,000 for the year for projects. And I think I relayed that story at the CNAs. But, that's what we had after our convention, and we paid our bills, and we had enough money to put that into the ground. So, some of it was we put signs up at Census Bridge. It was really just kind of nuancy stuff, whatever we could do, and just kind of basically just trying to sell, getting people to join and growing what we do. So as the game changer, and Joe kind of touched on it a little bit, was the first raffle that we did, the first WSR raffle that Mike put together. And that raffle money gave us the money to do what we did, start off with projects that we had $100,000 to put on the ground, because, it went from 5 to 10 to 15 to 20. from as what we called our bake sale, our convention. But that was the game changer, was the raffle, right? And that was a huge difference, and I think that's helped drive everything else that we're doing now, because we were able to put money on the ground. And like I said, kind of, we were chatting earlier, I don't know if it was today or yesterday, but potentially we're going to put 1.6 to 1.8 on the ground with partner funding this year. So for a group that's made up of 1,300 members, and obviously Wild Sheep Foundation with 10,000 plus members, but we're going to put 1.6 on the ground for Wild Sheep in BC is a huge statement. And my hat's off to our board and our executive for being able to put this where we are.
Yeah, right on, Chris.
Hey guys, sorry, Kyle, just a quick question, if I may. Can you give us the history on, I guess the chronological history on the Wild Sheep Society of BC, and at what point the society became, I guess, an affiliate, right? You're affiliates of Wild Sheep Foundation. Can you just talk about that connection a little bit and how that all played out? Because if I'm correct, I think you guys started out as a society on your own and later joined the foundation. Is that right?
Yeah,
Chris.
Yeah, that's correct. We were our own entity, and we still are our own entity. That affiliate name is, and I mean no disrespect by this, but it's a very loose relationship. But the belief from our board in Wild Sheep Foundation, and vice versa, Wild Sheep Foundations believe in the Wild Sheep Society of BC and their other affiliates. It comes back to Wild Sheep Foundation's mantra of one tent, one campfire, that Gray Thornton came up with. That's what we live. That's how we operate, and that's how the success was with this at the CNAs, is that 110 one campfire mentality. So the affiliate came, I think we kind of blended into the affiliate piece. I think I attended the first chapter and affiliates meeting in Edmonton, was the first one I attended, and that kind of brought us into the fold. Loosely before that, we were working quite closely with Grand Slam Ovis prior to becoming that really tight knit family with WSF. So that's kind of how it just kind of just progressed naturally. It was very loose and informal, and almost like a handshake, for lack of a better word. But like I say, true family and friends is really what it is.
Yeah, that's great. And I think, I found it really interesting when I started to really dig into, the Wild Sheep Foundation and all of its chapters and affiliates. Would I don't know that every member of WSSBC knows the reach that the Wild Sheep Foundation has with those chapters and affiliates, but that's an impressive list of organization and groups. And to see, to see a project like the one you guys have with the Yukon, and the simple fact that the Yukon is an official chapter, and the history with that is fairly recent too, from my understanding, just in discussions with Joe in the last few days. This is a really interesting project. The fact that we've got neighboring province and territory so close working together on a big project like that, that's impressive. And congrats to both groups for getting that thing off the ground.
Yeah, and I think you're going to see some more. I'm going to kind of dive off topic to you guys, rein me in, but we're going to see this sort of collaboration in the next couple of years in the Okanagan. I kind of call it disease central right now with Seroptes and Movi on the landscape down there, but Washington State's experienced the same thing. And, Glenn Landris, our chair, he's, for WSF, that's his home state. So he's just as vested as we are, but Garrett from Washington State, they're on board with what we're doing. So you're going to see this collaboration again with across border. This will be the first, when we start in Washington State and BC, it'll be the first international project that we do. It's going to have some really good involvement from, again, First Nations and all our chapter and affiliates. So you're going to see a lot more of this coming at us over the next couple of years. And Montana and Idaho, all those relationships that we have, great group of guys, same mentality as our board. So it's too bad everybody doesn't get to meet all these guys, but if you do get the opportunity to go to chapter and affiliates, that's the place to go and meet people with the same kind of passion that we have.
Yeah, right on, Chris. And I think it's, worth noting here that I think this year the Wild Sheep Foundation, Gray's been talking about their investment in British Columbia, but it's roughly $1 million that the Wild Sheep Foundation has invested in British Columbia this past year. Of course, much of that went to the Wild Sheep Society BC related projects. There was $100,000 US that went to One Campfire, $100,000 that went to Who Cares BC, which is a GOABC's outreach program, and then Ministers Ag. So yeah, they're pushing $1 million into British Columbia. So that can't be understated. And it goes beyond the Wild Sheep Foundation. When we talk about chapter and affiliates, Eastern chapter of the Wild Sheep Foundation's invested in our projects. We just got a funding grant from them for $30,000 US for the Soroptes program in the Okanagan. Midwest chapter has been a partner with us, Iowa, FNAZ. So just great collaboration. And of course, this Yukon Doll Sheep project's phenomenal. That's just over the top. So it's really a demonstration of our Wild Sheep family. It's phenomenal, and it's really the strength that we have. And we look at some of the other models out there in the conservation community, like SCI, where they're dedicated chapters, Ducks Unlimited. A lot of that money that's raised locally will go to the mothership and then get reinvested back in the jurisdiction. We're a little bit different, but I'd say our strength as a chapter and affiliate, and our Wild Sheep family is unparalleled. It's really, really inspiring. Okay, I just want to switch gears a little bit here, unless Chuck, do you got anything else you want to touch on project stuff, or want to switch gears?
Yeah, I've got a couple things. Well, actually, one for Pete. I just wanted to see if he had an update on the herd down south of you there that had the blue tongue issue there a while back, and how's that herd recovering, and what's the update on that, if you could?
Yeah, you betcha. So that Grand Forks herd, it was before the blue tongue outbreak in and around 250 animals. Our best guess right now is that they're sitting in like the 60 to 70 range. So it was a pretty significant die-off, and that was kind of what we expected at the time. Yes, obviously didn't find all those carcasses, but there's sheep living on a wild landscape, so they went and died in little holes somewhere and stuff. So yeah, pretty devastating. But the herd otherwise is, as best we know, they're clear of disease and stuff. They've been tested for MOVI over the years. They monitor them over the winter and stuff, and we're watching the lamb recruitment out there as well. There's been issues with that as well. So yeah, but the blue tongue thing is a natural thing that comes up. Nothing we can do about it, and so it's devastating in the moment, but otherwise they're healthy.
Right on. Thank you for the update.
No worries.
Anything else there, Chuck, before I switch gears?
No, sir. Sorry to interrupt.
No, it's awesome. Appreciate it. And anyone that has any questions in the chat there, just shout it out on the project side of things, and we can revisit that after. One thing I want to switch gears a little bit here is, the Wild Sheep Society BC, our mission is to look after BC's wild sheep, right? It's very well stated. It's pretty clear on what we're supposed to be doing. But we have purposes as well, and one of them is to unite sportsmen and sportswomen. Is one example of one of our purposes, and there's others as well for anyone that's interested. But one of the things that we do is advocacy and outreach, and obviously on the wild sheep side of things, it's pretty clear. We sit on FATAT, the Provincial Hunting Trapping Advisory Team. We're often engaging government for different policies and legislation that's going to benefit wild sheep. But we also take it a step further. So we have our One Campfire initiative, and Mike, I know you're super passionate about that. And then we also have our government engagement committee. So I'd like to just dive a little bit into, maybe let's kick things off a little bit with One Campfire, Mike. And you were a big proponent. You and I were, I think, at the sort of front of the line there, trying to put things together in the early days, right on the heels of the Grizzly announcement in 2017, when Horgan waltzed in and made some changes that we didn't like there. Let's talk a little bit about One Campfire and your passion for that, and why the society is spearheading this.
Yeah, it's kind of I don't know. It's a lot of work what we got going on there, but the way I look at it, hunters, we've never really told our story. Most people, in my experience, that come from non-hunting backgrounds, when met with hunters and brought to the table, honestly, politely, show them your world, what it's all about, feed them, that kind of stuff seemed to come to the table well. And my Kyle and I literally came to this. It was a weird deal. Grizzly bear thing was getting dealt with in BC, and I phoned Kyle one day and said, Kyle, I got this idea. And Kyle's like, so we talked about it, and he goes, well, yeah, I got exactly the same idea. And I'm like, right on. So, and basically Kyle ran with it. So it became Kyle's baby more than my baby, which is, again, let's put more feathers in Kyle's cap, but a real big bonus having a guy like Kyle who is so freaking adaptable, efficient, just an amazing guy. Like he's doing conservation work in BC that wouldn't be getting done if we didn't have a guy like him involved with us directly. So anyways, long and short, we're 30 years behind the curve of the Antis, maybe more than that. And over the years, we've gone from coming home from a hunt with your mule deer or your moose or whatever hanging over the hood of your pickup truck to throwing them under the canopy, hiding it all away, being really quiet about it, and sort of hiding who you are and what you identify as such. And I think everybody at the table here identifies as a hunter, and everything that goes along with that. I mean, hunter gatherer, I don't really care. I mean, out fishing today with the wife, and got a couple nice rainbow trout, bring them in, cook them for dinner. Really nothing better than that. And hunting is the same thing. And when we get right down to it, hunting, fishing, gathering, I mean, we all started there, and being able to live that in a modern world, because I mean, a lot of people live in the city. I grew up in the city myself, but don't live there anymore. Thank God. And it's just, we need to tell people how we respect these animals, how I don't even know how to get across some of the things that the emotions and the feelings in hunting. I mean, we all started off, whether it's shooting with birds or shooting a spike buck or whatever it happens to be. And those of us that have been at it long enough, I suspect all sooner or later are going to get to that point where they're looking at, in my case, it was two animals. One was a big grizzly bear that I shot up on the northern coast of BC, that I walked up to with my buddy Kevin, and looked at, and as I'm looking at this awe-inspiring animal, it's coming to me like, man, this is an amazing hunt, and I'm passionate. I'm a passionate grizzly bear hunter, but I'm like, man, I don't know if I need to frickin' shoot another grizzly bear. But what that allows for me to do is, because I love hunting them, so I go take my son hunting. He shot his grizzly bear in 20. What was it? What year was it, Kyle? When they shut the bear hunt down? 17.
17.
Yeah. So he got his that last fall. And wonderful, great experience to be able to share with my son. And then he shares those same experiences with his friends. And now we've got a bunch of his friends that were never hunters that I'm taking into the up north this year for a month in the bush with me. And they're going to go and get to experience what we experienced firsthand. And it's really, again, One Campfire is about telling those stories and that transition from city dweller, soccer player, soccer mom, whatever you are, to embracing what we do, or even if you're not embracing it, supporting it. And I don't know how that's going to really happen full bore, but again, we're 30 years behind the curve, but we got to keep messaging. We got to keep talking the talk and making people understand that we're just not a bunch of Elmer Fuds out there chasing Daffy the Duck around the woods, man.
Yeah, right on, Mike. Well said. So, Greg, with us on the government engagement side of things, we've had a number of Act Now campaigns. We kind of call it Act Now. It's kind of our call to action. We've done this on a few different issues, and one of which was a little bit on C21 firearms stuff, but other issues as well too. Maybe just give us an update on the importance of the government engagement committee, and kind of, is this something that we kind of use as a tool when we need to? Is it something we need to be more proactive on? Sort of what your vision is for the government engagement side of things as our chair for that committee.
Yeah. So with the government engagement committee, just to continue on with what Mike said there, one of our big ticket items that really put the government engagement committee forefront with everybody was the anti-predator hunting movement. We were facing shutdown, or millions of votes, literally millions of votes to shut down wolf hunting in BC. And our membership and people outside our membership stepped up when we launched the Act Now campaign a couple of years ago. And we had sent over 50,000 letters to government in support of science-based wildlife management and support of the predator hunt. And we had, Kyle was one of the guys, I believe Chris might have been there. We delivered 20,000 letters to the doorstep in Victoria, sent a message, there was other parties involved, but we sent a message using that government engagement committee, and it was an incredible tool, the Act Now. More recently, we relaunched Act Now against the Bill C-21. The other year, we were going Region 4 regulation changes. Again, it was more emotion than science, and a couple people pulling the lever that, there was other things that could have been done, and we didn't believe in them. And we have representatives across the entire province in every region, and we send those representatives. We give them the tools they need, help them out. They go and interact with their MLAs, and we drive the nail home. Basically, we just keep going. And that's what the government engagement committee is there for. It's to support hunters, support wildlife, support conservation, but bring it to the next level.
Yeah, well said, Greg, and appreciate your leadership on that. And I guess for our listeners that, we're always looking for people to get more involved on the advocacy side of things, like meeting with your MLA, federally with your MP on some of these other issues, maybe not so much wildlife, but C-21 was a great example. Building those relationships is absolutely critical. And our government engagement committee kind of provides us with some tools. Now we're kind of in the middle of an election cycle right now, so we're a little bit quiet on that side of things. But as we, get closer to election, you're going to see a little bit more noise coming out of that committee. But then when there's some hot topic issues that we're really concerned about, maybe around policy and things like that, you'll see the committee get more involved. And then we use that Act Now campaign kind of when we need be. So good stuff there, Greg. And I guess our listeners, anyone that's interested, just reach out to Greg or anyone from the society. And the more people we kind of have on our list, we do have a government engaged committee that we'd love to have a representative in each single MLA's riding meet with their respective MLA and sort of build that relationship so that when something comes up, you can go and say, hey, this is an issue. And if the leadership in Victoria is hearing 80 different MLAs saying the same thing, they're going to start paying attention, right? So that's an easy way for our members and anyone that cares about wild sheep to get involved with very little. It doesn't cost you much. It just takes a little bit of time, and it's really, really effective. So, okay, let's transition a little bit here now, and I'd like to hear from, I guess, any one of you guys on, things that are on your radar that are of concern for wild sheep, things that you've been thinking about. And Chris, do you want to kick us off on some of the things? You lead our projects chair as a projects chair, and you have, you're kind of the forefront on the project side, but what's on your radar and what do we need to do better for wild sheep?
Well, I think one of the things that's always asked is, how do I support the society, and where would my money go? And I always tell people that one of the best ways to support the society, if you really want to do something for sheep, is buy raffle tickets. All those raffles that you guys put together. That's how we get that money on the ground for projects, and that's what allows our projects committee and our board to get that money up back on the ground. So that's kind of the main one, is the raffles really drive that home and empower us. And then, the networking that we've done helps drive the rest of those project stuff. So it's a nice problem to have, and you keep bugging me about it, that I've got to come up with some projects. And one of the things I do look at is we look at where we are at, where we've got these baseline health assessments. We haven't got all our sheep herds done, but we're getting really close to getting all our sheep herds done to where if they've got MOVI, we can do the test and remove. But what's the next big step? What's the thing that's really going to be impactful for sheep on the landscape and for our members and for non-members and hunters is going to be actually growing more sheep. And the only thing that's going to help do that is habitat and keeping disease and that disease separation. So first and foremost, we still haven't got policy regulation from government. The previous ag minister did approve that. The recommendations have gone to the bureaucrats. We still haven't got anything signed off on that. So we've here we are 2 or 3 years later. We're still waiting for policy and regulation that should be simple enough to pass through that protects wild sheep. We do support the domestic sheep industry, and we've got a, Jen Vows in the Kootenays really supports and believes in what we're doing. There's a lot of other producers out there, so it's not the society saying that you need to do this. It's not. It's a cohesive working thing. We've got some parts of ag on board trying to support that program, but that policy regulation piece is huge. So for members, if they want to write a letter or get involved, that's the biggest missing link. That's what's going to protect more of our sheep. As soon as that's out of our hair, and Mike's heard me say this, but if disease is sorted out, I can retire. You told me I can't, but Kyle, but if disease was sorted out, we're focused on habitat, and that's going to be the next swing shift. That's got to be almost a paradigm shift in thinking, because we're looking at, invasive species, burns. How is that going to be effective on the landscape? Do we look at these new pieces we've got cheatgrass infestations in Kamloops, so we're looking at fertilizer treatments to try and get rid of cheatgrass. So all these pieces to improve habitat, but that's going to be the next piece. That's how we're going to support our sheep on the landscape, is getting habitat work done. And that's going to be that next transition. And it's coming at us quicker than I think most people realize. I think we've probably got 1 or 2 more years of doing what we need to do. Obviously, the Okanagan, we're going to be dealing with the Sauroptes and Movi probably for the next 4 or 5 years. But, you remove that from the landscape. The threats to the Okanagan are loss of habitat, winter range, stopping subdivisions going up the hills. They're all moving up into the hills. So those big losses there. So we've got to start thinking outside of the box. Like when you think about habitat, you're going to go, okay, well, sheep live in these mountain ranges here and there, and they're kind of removed from the influence of housing and stuff. But the Okanagan is a prime example of what can happen. The Kootenays not far behind. Their issue in the Kootenays would be invasive species, logging roads, and just the amount of roads. There's no refugia left for those sheep in the Kootenays. You can look at a sheep mountain from every different angle because there's so many logging roads in there. So removing logging roads and that access piece create some refugia for these animals. So we're not, part of the hunt to me is it's the hunt. Me and Mike have been, I think the last 5-6 sheep hunts, Mike. I don't think we've killed a sheep. I think we're just out there for exercise.
Don't tell everybody that. Yeah.
But we see sheep except for the last trip. But that's kind of a nuanced story. Projects chair, we're in a sheep hunt, and guess what? They're doing a project and they're flying oil drums out where we're sheep hunting. So a bit of helicopter travel. Those sheep disappeared in a hurry, so kind of screwed up our own sheep hunt. But there's a great example of something that's gone sideways. Mining company goes in, does exploration, left, I think, what was that total project? $150K to remove all the garbage and barrels out of there. Who paid for it? HCTF and an NGO. And I think there was a BC gaming grant in there that helped fund that project. But why are the mining companies not accountable for cleaning up their mess if they're going to do this exploration? So there's lots of stuff that's wrong with the system. And I could keep going on, and I'll stop there, Kyle. But those are kind of things that we need to be focused on. I'm not thinking of just the generic things that are going to be short term. It's what are all these other impacts that are jumping in there.
So if I could jump in for a quick sec here with a question. I'm sure it's a real daunting process, but could you guys talk a little bit about how you decide the allocations for funding to projects, and how those priorities are sort of evaluated and managed before you execute the funding for them? Because I can only imagine, just right there, just in 5 minutes, Chris, you came up with a whole bunch of different things that are issues for sheep out on the landscape. So, I could just imagine one board member's priority might look a little different than the member sitting beside. So I'm just curious how that looks, if you guys could talk about that.
Yeah, so I think we're in a really unique way how things progressed or ended up being structured. The board is very like-minded. We do have differences of opinion, which is great, because then it's not a rubber stamp, and you get all these nuanced pieces. But where the society's situated, we can end up coming up with these ideas, and we talk to our regional bios, and that's somehow how these projects come to fruition, is we help guide those projects. So for instance, the Dual Sheep project, Bill Jacks is the one that gave me the idea, but I was talking to Bill. I said, hey, Bill, we want to do a project. We want to do a cross-border project with Yukon. Is there something we can do for Dual Sheep? We know that they need some help, but is there? So Bill sent it to us, and that has not progressed. So one that's on our radar, and it's going to be on our projects call tomorrow night. And Bill may kill me for stating it this way, but I'm thinking about, okay, we've got this great project in the Yukon that's going to happen. We've still got another herd of Dual Sheep in the Tatsunshini that we have no information on whatsoever. So we're buying all these collars. So what happens if we buy some collars and get a cheaper rate on them, because we're bulk buying collars, and we look at putting collars in Tatsunshini sheep, and then we can really monitor lamb recruitment, and start looking at what habitat are they using, all the suite of things that we're looking for, and really that accumulates all our sheep from the west right to the east of the BC border. So that Tatsunshini sheep herd is a missing link in my mind. So I reached out to Bill and Crystal about it, and I said, this is a thought process. What do you guys think? And Bill goes, it's got some merit. We've got to, that's where Crystal and Bill come in and put the outcomes in. Is this a viable project? So we rely heavily on our regional bios to come up with these ideas, and that's how the Fraser River started off. I was bugging Chris Proctor, and we had a meeting, and we were talking about what's going on with Fraser River sheep. There used to be 3,500 sheep there, and we're down. We're shutting the hunt down. There's less than 850 sheep or 850 sheep on the whole Fraser River system. What's going on? I think it's Movie. I think it's disease. Let's go sample it. So that's how that transition piece. So, everybody works on, like Pete works on stuff. Greg works on stuff. Greg leads our lamb counts in the Fraser. So they all kind of spin off one another, but we want to be able to drive where our money's going. So it's more impactful. And I think that creates the belief in what we're doing on the landscape as well. That's why I think the board is so engaged, is because everybody's driving these nuances, and we go through the merit thing, and we look at, the return on investment. What's the outcome for wild sheep going to look like? Is it going to be positive? And is it going to help sheep? And then we're going to put more sheep on the mountain. So those 4 or 5 things kind of guide that whole process to where we're at. But I wouldn't say we're in control, but we help guide a lot of how our projects come to fruition.
Right on, Chris. I'm curious. You said I asked for what was on your radar, and you kind of gave us a laundry list, which is cool. But okay, you can only solve one problem, and I'm going to narrow it down because I know it's 3 probably, but 2 in your world: disease, habitat. Which ones? And I know predation's 3, but which is the one you could solve? One of those 2. What are you going to solve?
Disease, because we can have more sheep on the landscape.
Yeah, I figured you'd say that. Yeah. Okay. Right on. Okay, let's what else is on the radar for with Greg, Pete, Joe, Mike? You guys have been on the board. What else do you want to accomplish? Mike, let's go with you because you've been on the longest, and you keep putting in year after year. You keep stepping up, and you do the lion's share of stuff, and the point where a lot of people are retiring off the board, and you keep coming back. What else do you have left to accomplish in your tenure on the board?
Well, pretty exciting, I guess. You and I were down in Penticton the other week looking at a new venue for our fundraiser. So no longer in Kamloops, moving her to the Penticton Convention Center and the Lakeshore Hotel there. That's pretty. It's funny. You come out of the fundraiser AGM, whether it's the northern one or the southern one, and of course I end up going to both of them. And every single time, it doesn't really matter how down on how much your workload is or life or anything else, you come out of those events reinvigorated, stoked about what's going to go on next year. What are we doing? And it's awesome. And that's the kind of passion that I don't think a single one of our directors, and for that matter, even a lot of our members, they all feel the same way. I mean, we are one big family of sheep hunters, the Wild Sheep Society BC. We're a group that just seems to take ownership everybody has a stake in what we got going on. Like Chuck's got this going on. Chuck's son's involved with it. I mean, it's just absolutely unbelievable, the connection and the connectivity of the groups and various people that are involved with this. But to answer that question more directly, yeah, I mean, I've got a little bit more time. Well, I got a lot more time. I'm retired now. I'm only 53, so yeah, I get lots of time. And probably I keep saying to you, I'm always busy, and I am, but I can only cut so much firewood. Like I really have a lot of firewood cut. So, and that's great, but I want to see that Penticton show kick off, and really, I want to see it for a number of years before I go anywhere, unless you guys just decide you don't want me around anymore. I can see that thing really turning into the sheep show, mountain hunter extravaganza type deal. We haven't. This is maybe letting the cat out of the bag a little bit. We got a lot of thoughts and a lot of irons in the fire on this one right now. So, really stoked to be a part of that. More so than anything else right now. I mean, my involvement with the society has always been on the fundraising side of things, and I'm not really sure how that worked out that way, but it just ended up being that way. I'm like you, Kyle, been around a little longer. I haven't had my hands on a sheep on a capture either. Chris is a helicopter sheep hog, man. He takes them all. Like he just never lets us go. So, anyways, I can say that he's my friend. But that's my thing. I want to see that kick off. I want to see that to its full potential. I'd like to see us. I just think it's going to be the next greatest thing we got going on. It's going to be amazing for the society. So, and build this brand, man. Build this group.
Awesome, Mike. Yeah, inspiring for sure. And the cool thing is when we get together like this, and it's a bit more tactile because I'm sitting here and we're talking about in this session to people from not on the board, on the outside, and I think we all have our own strengths, right? There's things that we all bring to the table, and Barker is heavily invested in projects. You are heavily invested in the fundraiser, like that's your baby. I look at Joe and he's running the raffles and just doing full time on that. Gucci's membership, Greg's social media and government engagement. And it's, that I think that's the strength of our organization where we're sitting now is we've got a very diverse group that people have so many different strengths. And we're not all trying to do the same thing. I remember Steve Kilpatrick from Wyoming a while back had said that the worst thing you can have is 14 directors that all want to run the show. It's a train wreck. You want people to stick in their lane and do what they're good at. And, Steve was the executive director. Let me be the executive director and you do what you're good at and so forth. And we all need to have our little piece of the pie and work on that. And I think that, kudos to this group because we're very diverse in our leadership in roles on this board. On that note, Pete, I know you're super passionate about membership, and you're relatively new to the board, although you're not new to the board. So there's lots of upside on the membership side. What do you see down the road? What do you envision for that? Where do you want to take it? What do you want to see from a growth perspective? What would you like from our membership?
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously you want to see growth year over year and all these things. I've got some, personal goals of where I'd love to see the society end up at one point. And that's quite large. And I think we're on the right trajectory with that right now. Like we're, as Joe was alluding to earlier with the raffle numbers that we generate. As we continue to push that narrative out and people see the work that we're doing and we see these new projects kick off throughout the province, I hope it would give, more hunters in this province, pause for consideration about what the society is and to see that, a $60 or $55 on a renewal, like that adds, your name as a member adds a piece of weight to the society that we can then take to government and to all these things. And so, that's one of, just that continued growth of membership. And then tied into membership is just our relationship building as a society, right? The different organizations that we're building relations with, whether that be government, whether that be First Nations, whether that be other organizations like GOABC or whomever else, right? There's all these different groups that are in the hunting space, in the conservation space. And just having us, I think, continue to build all of those relationships as best as we can. We're not going to get it right all the time, obviously, but to do whatever we can, like that's, to me, that is super important. And I think we're making great strides in a lot of that and just want to see that grow more.
Awesome, dude. Definitely inspiring and really cool the direction we're going with it. And, you know, to your point, you show up to government and you say, we have 300 members and we're advocating for this. They're like, oh, 300 members. Yeah, okay, fine. You show up to government with 1,400 members or 10,000 or 20,000 members, then they start paying attention, right? So that $55 or $60 membership may only be $55 or $60. And does it move the needle for wild sheep from a financial aspect? Probably not, but it's much bigger than that. You know, the larger we grow, the more advocacy we have, the more strength we have with government, the more respect we get. And just to shout out, take a look at Blake there behind him over his right shoulder. He's got a new life member plaque, one of our newest life members. So thanks for that, Blake, and for your support of the society. It's awesome, dude. So very cool. Okay, let's talk a little bit. We promised some sheep hunting. And so when we marketed this, Greg and I said that anyone that's killed a sheep has to just share coordinates. So if you guys just want to pop the X on the map for all the new sheep hunters there, that'd be great. So, and it could be one from years ago. It doesn't have to be a recent one. So, okay, we didn't do that. We can't do that. But that said, I guess, Joe, let's start with you. You're the newest less than one member that's been kicked out most recently. So how many years did you hunt? And then tell us about your Dall sheep that you found one dumb one up there in Yukon that you finally were able to kill. So let's hear a little bit about that.
I just needed some hair, right? I just grabbed a man bun and got it done. You know, I did a little bit of stone sheep hunting when I was in BC. Yeah, that definitely a missed opportunity if you think of kind of where we've been. And if I was to go back 10 years in time and invest a little bit more time and knowledge, yeah, missed opportunity. Took me, so really started dedicating my sheep hunting and time in the mountains once I was up in the Yukon, and got one in 2021, which I would say was probably my fourth dedicated sheep hunt. And every sheep hunt I've done has been a solo excursion. The one time I had a planned partnered sheep hunt to go for 8 days in the hills with a partner, he decided to have a heart attack, jammer, 3 days before we went into the bush. So that was just a signal right there that Joe's just better by himself, I guess. But yeah, I got one in 2021, 8 day solo hunt. And I was a pack horde. I had 300 times more food than I needed. So with all of that in my gear and a few luxuries, which I would probably still take with me today, what was 14K back from my truck was turned into a 40K pack out because I had to leapfrog and go back for gear back and forth. So it was something. I lost 12 pounds in 8 days, and I wish I look at myself now and I wish I would have kept sheep hunting because it would have been better for me. And I'm looking to the year ahead. You know, it takes a little bit to scrape up the $10 for a sheep tag up here, but you know, I'll find the money somehow to make sure I got a tag by August 1st, and I'll drive somewhere. I might drive a little further this year, maybe 4 hours from home instead of 3. But you know, I'll find a place. You know, I'll make sure there's gas in the tank, and I'll get it done.
You're incorrigible, man. That's terrible.
I just hope he gets the job in Alberta.
That's a very asshole-ish thing to say, I must say.
So, you know, one of the things, I think it was Gundahoo on Instagram, the spoofsters there are making fun of, you know, the Wild Sheep Society BC board of directors, telling people how to sheep hunt. And they've never killed a sheep before. So we maybe have one of those. Greg, tell us about your quest. What's on the radar? And you know, it's funny. Again, we're putting sheep on the mountain. We're not taking them off, but we're all hunters at heart. I think every one of our board of directors is a hunter. I don't think there's an exception there. We all care about it. We want to preserve hunting opportunity for our membership and for British Columbians and all of us, obviously, right? But obviously, Greg, you're still waiting to get kicked out. But and I noticed that you're planning these trips. They're not really sheep trips either. You're shooting caribou and moose and stuff like that. So talk to us about that for a second.
Oh, it's I seem to just be taking pictures of them with my camera for some reason, but no, I've gone on a couple dedicated sheep hunts. They ended up going other places. Been, the first one we went in for stones, ended up going after goats because that's all we were seeing was goats. And then we went in again. We went in for a fly-in for stones. Ended up caribou hunting, and then we went in for another fly-in. Probably not really a sheep area, and there's sheep nearby. So shot a moose. So, one of these days I might actually glass for the sheep and shoot one. So hopefully maybe this September we're flying in again. Got my sights set on a stone. I know where they are there. I've seen them there. I've never seen any legal ones there, but population is good. So fingers crossed I might get kicked out of that club. But till then I'm going to have my camera with me, so I'll keep sharing the pictures on Instagram and Facebook for everybody to look at my failures to pull the trigger on some animals.
Yeah, you have no difficulty getting close to sheep, but killing them's another story. But I've got one piece of advice, and I'm not much of a sheep hunter, but I've had the opportunity to be on one and be successful, or two maybe. But I've got a piece of advice for you if you're interested.
So let's hear it.
This is good advice for a new sheep hunter: that leave all your other tags at home. Just take your sheep tag, because that's a curse, man. Like, you'll never kill a sheep because you're busy chasing everything else. And whenever I've carried extra tags, it's like, yeah, you just mission drift, man. I'm telling you, it's the kiss of death.
What's the problem when I keep going these places when there's animals I've never harvested before? So the caribou one was a first for me. So it was, caribou quickly took my attention because I had never taken one before. So we made that happen. This time I could ignore the caribou.
I'm teasing you a bit. But I guess for, some of our members there that are the newbies that haven't been on a sheep hunt or haven't been successful, I think if anyone was going to give us a little advice, it'd probably be Chris or Mike. It's certainly, if I was looking for some sheep hunting advice, I'd call one of you two guys up. But Mike, you want to jump in and just kind of give some words of wisdom on your greatest keys to success to be successful out there?
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with you, Kyle. Pick one animal. If you're going to go sheep hunting, you might not like hunting sheep in August, but you're limited to what you can hunt in August. So it's always a good time. It's one of my favorite times to go. Man, I don't know. I went to Sheep University in the Yukon and hunted my first year with Rod, who was like the sheep guy up there. Just an amazing hunter. Chris and I have always hunted with our packs on our backs, with our gear with us pretty much day in and day out. And that means up the mountain, down the mountain, across the creek, up the whatever. Like, the pack is always with us 9 times out of 10, except when we put it down and then we can't find it like we did with Patrick that time. That's always fun. But yeah, and that's when I say that. So what that does allow you to do is it saves you that 5-kilometer hike back to camp because you got on your back. Maybe you can't go quite as far, but it allows you that flexibility to go that next ridge. I mean, which Chris and I have done without the packs on our back, and we've spent numerous nights out in the cold, with or without fire, generally without food, pushing the limits. And that's really, I think that's really what it comes down to, is pushing the limits. I mean, you think you can go this far, or you can work that hard, work a little harder. Don't be in a foot race. It's not about racing at all. Like, take your time. If you're in a spot where there's more people and too many people, well, you're in the wrong fucking spot. Like, too many people just is the bane of sheep hunting, quite honestly. The only thing worse is cattle on the landscape when you're hunting sheep. That's the only thing I hate more than too many fucking people in the mountains. So, sorry, I don't have my woke meter on, so I apologize for the cursing. Hopefully Robin's not on. Anyways, yeah, that's it, man. Keep your heads down and work hard at it and pay attention. Learn. I mean, anybody who's passionate sheep hunter is going to, or is passionate about sheep hunting, is going to have their ear to the ground, and every little bit of knowledge, absorb it one way or the other. Absorb that bit of knowledge, learn from it, and beyond all else, yeah, pack light and take your time. Take your time. Don't run up and down the mountains, or especially across the tops of the mountains. I hate you fuckers even more, actually. The guys that run across tops of the mountains. Drives me crazy. That's it.
That's it, eh? And to that note, I guess just, if you want to learn from people like Mike, where do you go? And you go to, go to one of our fundraisers. And that's where I started networking, and, just the number of people there with experience that I've learned from over the years, and the thing, and, you just go to the show and you learn something new every year without fail, so just a plug to the fundraiser. And, it's just a great place to network with like-minded people. And if you want to learn from sheep hunters, go to a sheep hunting place, and the fundraisers tend to be that. Barker, do you want to throw anything else on top of that? So for the people that are psychopaths that are sheep hunters, Barker has to take it to the next level, and he does it with a string and a bow. So let's talk a little bit about
sometimes without even his pants.
I don't even want to know. See, that's disturbing when I know that you two are out there hunting and Chris doesn't have any pants on. I don't even want to think about it. And you talk about whatever.
I'm with you, brother.
All I'm gonna say, I can add to that, and the first sheep hunt that me and Mike, where we actually met, and again, I was packing a bow and a rifle at the same time because it was my first sheep hunt. Well, it wasn't my first sheep hunt. My first sheep hunt, it was with some friends, and that, that's kind of a whole nother story. But the first one, me and Mike went on together. I was packing my gun, my bow, and I think it was probably day 1 or day 2. Mike goes, "Why don't you just stash your gun here? If we see something you can't get to it with a bow, you can use my gun." And since that day, I don't even pack a gun anymore. If I need to use Mike's gun, I probably shot more animals with Mike's gun than I have with my own guns, just because of that relationship, that it allows me to pursue my passion with a bow, knowing that if there is something there that I can't get to, and we do want to take an animal, not so much anymore, but that opportunity is there. But leading back to that piece is, that to have a great hunting partner like Mike, it's not, I don't do, this is going to sound really, I don't know, naive, or I'm not sure if that's the right word, but Mike decides where we're going. I go to Mike, "Are we going sheep hunting this year?" And he goes, "Yeah, this is where we're going." He's already done the research. So I'm very fortunate in that regard that I don't have to do the spots. And, Mike's done the research. I kind of know, yeah, that's a good spot. That's where we're going. So my trust in Mike is huge when he says we're going here. I don't take anything else for granted. I just make sure I got my shit and we're off. And whether we harvest anything or not, it doesn't matter. We've had a good time, and it's about that, relationship, that hunting piece, and just building those memories and those stories. And it's, I've been really fortunate that I've had some great hunting partners over the years that I've been able to hunt with. So I think if you piggyback on what Mike says about, what pisses him off, the biggest detriment to a sheep hunt would be having a partner that quits on you, that bails on you, that doesn't believe in the same thing that you're trying to accomplish. So if you're hunting with a partner and they're in the same mind, you're acting like one, and one knows what the other one wants to do, and it's pretty cool. I mean, when I shot my stone sheep with my bow, Mike was there. We had another buddy, Ken, from Camel River with us, and we spotted these 2 sheep. The one that I was going to go after my bow was down the mountain, about halfway down. There was another ram on top. There was 2 rams together. Ken was sitting on this ram. What was it, 3 or 4 hours, Mike? While he waited, I get down, and
4+. Yeah.
4+ hours. He's watching this sheep, and he waited till I shot mine with my bow, and he was sitting on a Boone and Crockett ram for 4 hours watching it, allowing me to go shoot that ram with my bow. And his ram went 172 Boone and Crockett. So having the right hunting partner to do what you want to do and believe in what you're doing is really key to success. And you push one another too. If you're down having a shitty day one day, the other guy's going to bring you up, so you can actually go that extra mile. Another funny story. Me and Mike were on another sheep hunt. I don't think we shot a sheep that trip either, but we were hiking up. It was a fucking shithole, and we were hiking up where I didn't have my pants on. But Mike was packing my quiver, and he goes, we're going through this creek, and there's a cliff on either side, and all I see is Mike stumbles. He kind of goes down a bit, so I was like, okay, he's safe. And he goes, "Oh fuck, there goes your quiver." my whole quiver of arrows goes floating down the creek. But I had I had extra arrows in my backpack, but shit like that, I had extra arrows I brought. That's whatever. It's shit happens, right? We're both okay. We both had a great trip, but shit's going to happen, and let it roll off your back. I'll shut up now.
For sure. And you know what? Hunting with a bow hunter for me, we've had numerous opportunities with sheep. We've killed sheep with it. But when we started getting into hunting, I know we're not talking bears, but hunting bears, bear hunting got really, really fun for us. For me in particular, because I could really give a rat's ass about shooting black bears for the most part. But we did a lot of that when, in the younger years, when I was missing my kids' birthdays and all that kind of good stuff, just so I could get out spring bear hunting on the island with Chris. But yeah, you go from shooting bears at 100 yards to shooting them at 20 yards, and you're very successful at it that way. It's a hell of a good time. Lots of fun. Lots and lots of fun. But yeah, just to follow up on your little story there, on your story. Just so everybody knows, we do kill the odd sheep. That was our second hunt together, the three of us, and we tripled on that one, and we tripled on the one before that. And I think we had at least two other hunts where we got double hitters. Yeah, and some good crock of sheep too. Yeah, not that we're not patting ourselves on the back, but it's a little raw time, man. It's got to get pumped up for sheep hunt. It's right around the corner, man. We gotta have something to get me up that mountain tomorrow when I'm hiking.
Well,
that's what sheep camp's all about, man.
Awesome.
I'm really scared when you go hiking. Pre-training.
Yeah. Well, we're breaking in somebody new this year, seeing as you're not coming sheep hunting in August with me. So we'll see. Should be a good time.
You get me on the good trip. But we got a few tags in our pockets that day, so.
And kids to fill them.
Yeah, they can shoot that shit and pack it out. We can go sheep hunting.
Exactly.
Well, Chuck, I can kick it back to you, and if there's any questions anyone has, I know we don't have a ton of time left on the. I think there's 20 minutes left, so if there's any questions, or if you guys have any questions that you have for the directors, it'd be cool.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of questions. We're getting some comments from folks that have been watching the interview here, and it's just a lot of thank you, and thank you to all of you guys and for all the hard work and stuff. So I'll kick back at the end, but I'm curious to see what Mr. Pete has to say too, because I know he spent some time a little farther north last year. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about that adventure too while you're at it.
Yeah, you betcha. Not chasing any sheep up north, but yeah, we started guiding up in Northwest Territories with Arctic Red outfitters. So yeah, doing caribou and moose up there, and yeah, it's dream come true as far as I'm concerned. It's kind of some of the furthest out there kind of terrain you can get into anymore, and so to just be that remote and just be out there with just wildlife, and to Mike's point earlier, to never see people on the mountain ever is like that's all I need when I'm out in the hills, and yeah, it's awesome. I can't speak highly enough. It's kind of screwing up my own personal sheep hunting plans nowadays, but whatever, you gotta just do what you can do, and yeah, I don't know, for the next few years, I think that's something I'll be doing a lot more of, just because I can, and yeah, might as well do the things you love doing, right?
Yeah, right on. Well, like I said, I don't think there's a ton of questions. Oh, wait a second. Somebody's asking me. Oh, we can answer this one offline. Somebody's asking us what Spike Camp is. So we'll send them a PM. Hey, Blake, what do you think? I guess, just a couple things I wanted to kind of say here. I mean, Blake and I have been planning some sort of a project for a few years now, and the motivation behind Spike Camp really came from the Wild Sheep Society and what we saw, not only from your efforts, but what we saw out on the landscape with sheep and with hunters. And I've taken notes throughout this whole interview, and I could probably do another 30 minutes on, just the motivation and, the desire to get something like this up and on the, up and running. And just a few little notes here, like just looking at, I'll go around the horn, like the work that, Greg's doing with the government and the social media, it's really understated how much work that is. The social media, just my brief 3-month experience in helping Blake with Spike Camp, it's a ton of work behind the scenes. The little graphics and the posting and the transfer of information. All of that is so important today to get the message out there. And all of these things connect, right? When you look around the characters on the interview tonight, jump over to Joe with like the lotteries and the raffles and all that work. I mean, it's unsung, just unpraised work. The government, when it comes to lotteries and raffles, I used to be a board member of a youth sports group. And I can tell you, just trying to get something as simple as a 50-50 draw approved and get everything in line for that. Again, hats off to you, Joe, for that work. Membership. Pete, you got the hardest job, I think, trying to get people to open their wallet, right? Like I used to joke with one of my coaches when I coached baseball. It's like your back is sore because, you just sit on your wallet all day. It's incredible. And then the project work, Chris, I mean, again, all these things are just incredible reasons that the society is successful. The fundraising, having someone like Mike Southern there to push the fundraising for all those years is so important. Like it'd be really interesting to see how much money has been raised, total over the years. And lastly, I think one of the most important and probably one of the best decisions that I've seen as a member of the Wild Sheep Society is the decision to put Kyle in the CEO role and keep him here so he didn't take a pilot's job somewhere else in the world. You tie all those things together. And, as a Monarch member now, and Blake is a life member, we're super proud to be part of this group. And again, our main mission here is to support you guys and in every way, shape, and form that we can. So please, on behalf of Spike Camp and our membership, whatever help you guys need in supporting the cause, whether it's time on the platform like we have tonight, we're going to get you guys back on. This has been a more than I expected as far as fun goes. So anyway, thank you guys very, very much for all your hard work. And we got to do this again. So, and good luck on the Sheep Mountains, guys. Kyle, you got anything you want to add?
No, just thank you, Chuck and Blake, for this. And, you reached out a while back with the concept, Chuck. I love it. And also too, I know both you guys and Chuck, you in particular, this isn't a one-trick pony. The Tom Leonard thing was the fundraiser that we did. That was driven by you yourself. The donation, you reached out, you heard the Tom Leonard podcast with Tammy, and said we need to do more. And we raised our fastest sellout raffle in the history of the society. 6 hours, we had sold $20,000 worth of tickets to try and bring some closure to the Leonard family. So real inspiring. I know you're still working behind the scenes, certainly weekly, if not daily, to do more for that family. And so awesome. Keep up the great work. And the society is built by the membership. It's built by the Chuck Peelings, the Blake Peelings, and everyone else that's on here that's a member. It's, it's your society, and you guys are making a difference. You truly are. It's inspiring.
Hey, Kyle, I got one thing I think that's really cool to share from the CNAs. I'll kind of start it and I'll let you finish it off, but it's not related to the Dull Sheep Project, but it's also related to the Yukon and the belief in those members at the CNA members. So we've had a few beers. We're heading back to the hotel. I think it was Friday night. And I'm not sure whether it was you or Landris that started it off, but there was a challenge thrown out for everybody who wasn't a Yukon Life member to join. So if you're a life member of Wild Sheep Foundation, to be a life member of Yukon, it was $350 to join. So I think, I don't know whether it was you, but I'll turn the story over how that progressed and just where that ended up. Because I think that's a really cool story, and it just explains that family and friends mentality.
Yeah, super cool, Chris. And I think it's $300 for a membership, right, Joe? Yeah, so it's $300. I was saying $350. I'd give you that.
It's $300 for membership for the time being, but we are, I believe, the cheapest membership. And once we're proving our worth to members, expect us to follow inflation.
Yeah. So pretty inspiring. And anyone that's a Wild Sheep Foundation member can join as a life member. Sorry, if you're a Wild Sheep Foundation life member, you can join as a life member at Yukon. I know this is Wild Sheep BC, but we are one big happy family. And most of us on this call here are members of the Yukon. So yeah, don't be afraid to buy a life membership. Glenn set a challenge of 50 life memberships. Last tally I seen was around 44 or 45. So we need 5 of you guys to sign up for a Yukon life membership to take this to the next notch. And hey, if you're not,
Hey Joe, what do I get for my life membership, Joe? That's the stupidest question I've ever heard. I mean, how many I get that anytime I've been anywhere and you try to get somebody, what do I get for my life membership? What do I get for my membership?
For starters, you get me.
I'm just messing with you, buddy. I just had to, yeah.
The reassurance that people care for sheep and the buy-in of WSF society and chapters and affiliates like yourself that are supporting us, and money to conservation to ensure wild sheep for your grandchildren.
And you will always have your clothes on at all the meetings and stuff like that.
There are no guarantees in this world. In this life or another.
I did see that.
I may have a reputation at events, but we'll leave it at that. You got to people have to come back with a little something on the next conversation.
I did see that picture, Joe. It wasn't very. If you'd had different color underwear on it, would have been a way better picture. So, but anyways,
I have bighorn sheep underwear now.
That's better.
But I will say there were 5 individual $100 US pledges for me to put my clothes back on. That was money for conservation.
Right on, guys. Well, just a little housekeeping here. Just so you know, we will have this is recorded. We're going to have a link to it on the platform tomorrow. So it'll be embedded in there. It'll be on YouTube, and then it'll be on our podcast probably sometime tomorrow as well. And we're going to talk to Greg. If you guys want a copy of it for Talk of Sheep, by all means, we can double cast it and get that message out there. And Mike, if you buy that life membership, I'll send you a Spike Camp hat when I see you next. I'll give you one.
Oh man, you get okay. I'll buy a life membership, Joe, as long as Chris does. So Chris probably already did.
I did. It was part of the challenge on the bus. I think I was number 3 to sign up. So there was, by the time we hit the hotel, there was 14 new life memberships. So
hey Mike,
nice.
The link is in the chat.
Okay.
No pressure.
No pressure at all.
Right on, boys. Thank you very much. Have a good night and good luck this fall.
thanks.
Take care, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, boys.